Welcome back to Patriot Network TV. Today we are honored and privileged to have with us retired Colonel Richard Brauer. And Colonel Brauer is an expert in many areas of Air Force operation. He was inducted in 2010 into the Air Commando Hall of Fame, one of many honors that he accrued in his almost 3 decades of service to the United States Air Force and the United States of America. He's a great patriot, and he's also probably the single best source of information on what happened in Benghazi. And today we're going to talk about the testimony that Secretary Clinton gave before the House and the Senate, and then we're going to get into Panetta's testimony. But in this first segment, we're just going to talk about what happened with Secretary Clinton and her testimony. Colonel, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Thank you. It's my privilege to be here, Terry.
Alrighty, let's get right into it. You're our expert, and we have it on good authority. As a matter of fact, several retired generals have told us that you are the guy to talk to about Benghazi. So let's start with Secretary of State Clinton's role in this and her testimony. Tell us how you view this. I want to give you as much free form, as much rope as you need to lay out the design here of what's happened.
Okay. It's important to note that prior to Secretary Clinton Hillary's testimony before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing on 23 January, that there was published an accountability review report, which she refers to as the ARB, the ARB. That's 39 pages. I've read it about 6 times and highlighted it. The important thing in the ARB, and by the way, she appointed 4 of the people that would write this for her, that is the Accountability Review Board report held no one accountable. It played the blame game, you know, oh, it was the Intelligence Committee's fault. It asked for money about 5 times. We need more money, more resources, you know, the horse is out of the barn, but we need strengthened, more security, even though it was denied. If anybody that has studied this knows that all the requests for security that the ambassador requested were denied. In fact, there was almost no security there during the 2 attacks, which occurred between 7 and 8 hours duration. Hillary's testimony on the 23rd of July before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee basically parroted back that report. And the key phrases, I can sum it up in just a couple of statements as to what it says. Quote, systematic failures in leadership and management deficiencies at senior levels. There were systemic failures in leadership and management deficiencies at senior levels, okay? Security was a shared responsibility. Shared with who? With the CIA? Because the best explanation of what was called a consulate is it was not a consulate. It was a CIA safe house. There are some other theories that it was to be a location to stage a mock attack before a rescue, an orchestrated rescue. But I tend to lean towards that this was what most people think it was, and that was the intelligence, the CIA providing guns to the rebels in Syria through Turkey or wherever. And here's another quote. The interagency response, meaning everybody that was involved, was timely and appropriate, but there was not enough time for armed U.S. military assets to have made a difference. In that entire 39 pages, that's the one statement that dismissed DOD in 17 words. What could have been done during the attack, and that's the most important thing to me as a retired military officer. Also, the report, quote, found no individual government employees breached his or her duty. I disagree with that radically, that the people that were in charge of security, such as Charlene Lamb, who was in charge of the security for all the embassies, were basically not dismissed, not disciplined. They were given new titles and moved around and even given paid leave. Administrative leave. So they were shuffled around, hidden, and no one was found guilty of anything. The board found no evidence of any undue delays in decision-making or denial of support from Washington or from the military combat commanders. Again, a whitewash. That's 39 pages of this, and so there it is, the ARB, the ARB, and there it is, and it finds no one guilty, and no one was at fault, and we need more money. Now comes, on the 23rd of January, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And if I had to characterize the way Hillary did, looked, and acted, she was, I just wrote these words down as I watched what she did and heard what she said. Defiant. Somebody described her as a cornered bureaucrat, emotional, combatant, arrogant, defensive, belligerent, and angry. How dare you question my integrity? Anytime a Republican held her feet to the fire, such as Rand Paul, who said he would have fired her, Ron Johnson, and John McCain in particular, she got angry. And when she was asked selected questions, she came out with the classic line that will be forever etched in stone from the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and that what difference at this point does it make regarding the death of our 4 Americans? What difference at this point does it make? Makes a hell of a difference. She played the blame game again, just as the ARB report did. She blamed the Intelligence Committee. The Democrats that interviewed her fawned over her, praising her service. One of the Republican questioners, Representative Duncan, as I recall, said the ARB, the ARB report, held no one accountable. And he hit the nail on the head. State Department whitewashed the whole thing. There was an Air Force pilot, and a former Air Force pilot. I missed his name because it flashed on the screen, but he began to ask the questions that I've been asking and others have been asking about the military. Why were no F-16s scrambled from Aviano to do a low pass? They're only 1,000 miles away. They could have been there in short order. Mortars used during the attack. Those mortars, if you read all the reports, there were 5 rounds in 90 seconds. I think that's 1 round every 18 seconds. Now, that's not a flash mob. That's not a spontaneous demonstration. A mortar is a very significant, it takes significant training to learn how to do that. And when 3 of 5 rounds land exactly where the SEALs are standing and kills them during the latter part of that, the second attack, then you know the place was sighted in. And if you look further into some of the things that went on before the attack, such as at 6-something in the morning, 6:45, a Libyan, quote, policeman was seen photographing with a cell phone the Special Mission Compound, SMC, as they refer to the quote-unquote consulate, or TMF, Temporary Mission Facility. They have lots of names for this place, but it wasn't a consulate. There wasn't even a flag, an American flag on the place. It was a rented facility. But the fact that somebody was there early in the morning taking pictures and then speeds off in a Libyan police car and is a member of a suspect, the 17th Martyrs Brigade, I believe it was called, he was sighting in with GPS coordinates where those rounds would impact, because when a mob fires a mortar and 3 of their 5 rounds in 90 seconds take out 2 SEALs, you know darn well that's a military-style operation. The Air Force pilot questioned her on that, and she, of course, avoided that, all those questions. She also denied something that I don't think is true. I can't prove it. That the State Department did not have access to any live feed from the drone that was overhead. General Carter Ham, their African Command commander, just happened to be in the National Military Command Center when the attack started, and he's listening to, as all 12 or so other command centers are listening to, the attack, and so he diverts a drone from a reconnaissance mission, and within an hour and a half, that drone is overhead with live video feed. It's an unarmed drone. It's a reconnaissance drone. And it's got live video feed, and everybody's watching it. And I suspect Hillary was watching it as well. Can't prove it, but anyway, her hearing was an absolute whitewash of the situation. She had commissioned 4 people to be on the Accountability Review Board. It held no one accountable. It named a couple of names, but essentially just avoided the question. And when she came up with that statement, what difference at this point does it make? That should be etched in stone as to Hillary.
Okay, Colonel Bauer, we're right up against our time limit for this first session, but the quick review is we don't know what the truth is yet, and the people we pay to do this work in the State Department have not yet told us the full truth. Alrighty, real good. Folks, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back with Colonel Bauer, and we're going to do part 2, and we'll get into the testimony of Panetta and Dempsey, and we'll talk more about who is accountable for this and what should be done. Thanks so much for watching. God bless you. God bless the United States. This is part 2 of our interview with Colonel Richard Brauer, and we are talking about Benghazi in general, but specifically in part 2, we want to get into the testimony given by Secretary Panetta.
Okay, first of all, I was able to listen to, I would say, the majority of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing on Benghazi, the Senate Armed Services Committee hearing on, I believe it was 7 February with Leon Panetta and General Martin Dempsey, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. And rather than just discuss Panetta, I think the two of them, it was kind of like Heckle and Jekyll, Huntley and Brinkley. The questions bounced back and forth between the two, and basically I think we've got a less than dynamic duo here that are both risk averse in that they don't want to do anything, take a chance on doing something until they know the entire situation. For those that know or have looked at the Benghazi tragedy where we lost 4 Americans, it's kind of ironic that 2 were SEALs, because when Obama needed Osama bin Laden killed, he called upon the SEALs, and they did an excellent job. But when 2 SEALs called for help, he wasn't there. It came out during the hearing that Obama was not there, that he basically left the area, went on to other business, and went home for the night or somewhere in preparation for his appearance in Las Vegas the following morning when we were clearing up bodies for a fundraiser in Las Vegas. It's also important to know that before the military can do anything, before they can come into a country, before they can fly in and try and do something to put down these multiple attacks, they must have what's called cross-border authority, CBA. What that means is that the president is the only person on the earth that can allow and give a command, an order for military forces of the United States to enter foreign airspace and land or invade, if you will, foreign territory. It's important to note that in all these hearings, that issue has almost never come up. No one ever questioned the fact that no cross-border authority was given. It's also a fact that if the president doesn't say, go get them, United States military, then it's as good as a stand-down order. So that's important. 2 things that came out during that hearing. After 5 weeks of being lied to and not told the entire truth or any of the truth in some cases, we find that President Obama left the scene of the accident and basically told Panetta, and Panetta admitted it, left it up to him and left it up to Dempsey and Panetta. Dempsey being the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the highest-ranking military man in the Department of Defense, and Panetta, the Secretary of Defense. And the 2 of them are described by many as risk-averse. They don't want to do anything until they know the complete story. Well, that isn't the way that special operations or military operations work. You run to the sound of the guns, and that's exactly what the 2 SEALs did, and they paid with their lives by being killed by mortars during that attack. Mortars being used by sophisticated, planned terrorist attacks, not a mob scene. Mobs don't run around with mortars. It's a hard weapon to use, and they were very accurate in putting their rounds on target and killing our SEALs. So basically what we have here is a president with a style of leadership that could be called non-leadership. The commander-in-chief should be there running this operation, overseeing it. I can't imagine a Ronald Reagan running off to worry about a campaign the next morning in Las Vegas. We have a campaigning community organizer-in-chief here. There was confusion. There were stovepipe operations. Nobody made a move to move fighter aircraft that could have launched and been there within less than an hour and buzzed and made a low pass over that scene and probably disrupted the attack, if not stopped it. I think it was a question of who's in charge. And so we've prepared a list of questions. If you go to our website, www.specialoperationsspeaks, with an S between operations and speaks, 2 S's, .com. www.specialoperationsspeaks.com. And you go to the upper right-hand corner, there's a 3.5-minute video called Leaks lies Libya and lack of leadership. It's as true today as it was that we made it before the election. And also on that, there is a place that you can sign a petition to investigate Obama's dereliction of duty, because that's what he did. He was not the commander-in-chief during that evening, that horrible night where we lost 4 American lives. You can contact your congressman, your senator. We are trying to put pressure, and we actually have met with a couple of senators to demand a special prosecutor for what some people call Benghazi Gate. I don't like to call it Benghazi Gate because it smacks of Watergate, where nobody died. We lost 4 people. It's a tragedy. It should not be slow rolled, as we say in the Air Force. It should not be put under the rug.
The actions,
I think, is politically corrupted, in my opinion, and he was echoing Panetta throughout the hearing. They reacted and were asked the most pertinent and poignant questions by 4 senators: Lindsey Graham, Kelly Ayotte from New Hampshire, John McCain, and Senator Imhoff. And they asked the most pressing questions about and insisted in many cases on yes or no answers, and that's when it was revealed that they had nothing to do. Once they informed the commander-in-chief that this was going on, he basically just said, do what you have to do, words to that effect. So if you go to our website and if you look at that petition, request for petition, it asks, why the absence? Why no cross-border authority? And who gave the order to stand down? Stand down means stop doing what you're doing, don't resist. And that was heard at least 3 times during the tragedy. So those questions, those are the top 2 questions. Why was he absent? Why wasn't he leading? Why no cross-border authority? Who gave the order to stand down? Where was he? Why didn't he take charge as commander-in-chief? Who was calling the shots? Was it Leon Panetta and Martin Dempsey, or Martin Dempsey? That came out during the hearing that it was both of them. What recommendations and decisions did they make? Did they give the stand-down order? Where was the National Security Advisor, Tom Donilon, and his deputy, Dennis McDonough, who was known by the name the Fixer, during the attacks? What inputs and recommendations did either of them make to Obama? This attack was being watched through video feed for about 7 hours, and nothing was done. Yes, military forces came in the following day by a C-130, but we had people, strike teams that could have been immediately moved to the area. Special forces, airborne brigade, commanders in extremist forces, as they call them, on an exercise in Croatia, could have been there in a couple of hours. F-18s from the carrier strike group, Stennis strike group. There's an indication that there may have been one of our special ops gunships in the area, because one of the SEALs began laser designating, pointing his laser at the mortar that was firing at him, requesting specifically that an AC-130 gunship come to the rescue. That is a very accurate weapon. And then, of course, he paid with his life, because once you start pointing your laser at something, you're illuminating yourself, and the mortars came right in on his position and killed him. So who gave the order to stand by? There were transmissions heard from aircraft saying feet dry over Libya. That means an aircraft has come in from the water and is overhead or somewhere near overhead. So we've been lied to. The truth is not out. The fact that all the command centers that knew that this was going on, there had to be 300 to 400 military people, sergeants, NCOs, watch officers, commanders that have logs and recordings of where their forces were, and these need to be revealed. That's never been discussed. No one has really ever queried the military, and sooner or later somebody from the military will stand up and step forward and say, we were on the way and we were told to go home, or stand down. Stand down is an important thing. We need to find out. It was also reported Obama and Biden were on the phone with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu for an hour or more on other important issues after the attack began. So I guess it wasn't important for our president to oversee the rescue of 4 of our citizens. When did he reappear on the scene? Well, according to the testimony given by Panetta and the chairman, he never did. He never came back. He never called, neither did the Department of State, Hillary, by the way. Nobody ever called to say, how's it going? What have you done? Where are we? Nothing the entire night. Nothing. He walked away from being commander-in-chief.
And the price that was paid for that, Colonel, is the death of these 4 Americans. We're all out of time. We're going to go ahead and do a third episode here, because I think there's still a bunch of things we need to cover. So, folks, we'll be right back with episode 3. Welcome back, folks. We're speaking today with Colonel Brauer, and we are talking about Benghazi. And this is the third of 3 that we have done on this. And I want to mention to you that this is very important for the average citizen to get exposure to. This has not been covered by the mainstream media, and the Colonel is one of the world experts on this. If you want to find out the truth on this, you're going to have to go to the Colonel. You're going to have to go to his website. So let's get into it now with Colonel Brauer. Let's get back to this. Colonel Brauer, did the President, and this is really the heart of your petition, it sounds to me like the President of the United States walked away from his duty to defend U.S. citizens, and that's, you know, that's the promise of the oath of office, to defend the United States against all enemies, domestic and foreign.
He was AWOL. As the commander-in-chief, he is the senior. He is in charge of the United States military. He needs to make decisions. He needs to issue cross-border authority. He did that. We think he did that on the Osama bin Laden raid, when our helicopters, our special ops helicopters, had to go into Pakistani airspace, another sovereign nation, and we all know what the reaction was. You know, the Pakistanis didn't know what was going on, launched F-16 fighter jets, but we got out of Dodge. It's important that he be the hub. He make the decisions. The buck stops here at the President's desk, not in Las Vegas at a fundraiser the next day. We know of the strained relations that he has with Israel, but there he is on the phone immediately. While the attack's going on, he's on the phone talking about something with the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. There is a whole bunch of people waiting to do something. You run towards the sound of the guns, and that's what the SEALs have been trained to do. I mentioned in the earlier segment who might be listening to this, and I think this is where the truth will eventually be found. If we can find a, quote, I hate to use the term, a whistleblower, somewhere within 300 or 400 people that are listening to this attack and probably viewing it via the video feed from the reconnaissance drone overhead within an hour of when the ambassador's information officer, Sean, pressed the button. When he pressed that button, something called a flash critic message goes out to the National Military Command Center, the hub of activity in the basement of the Pentagon. Been there. Once it goes to them, it also goes to the White House Situation Room, the CIA Operations Center, the Counterterrorism Center, European Command Operations Center, where we have counterterrorism forces standing by but not allowed to do anything, African Command, General Carter Ham, who happened to be in the basement in the NMCC at the time, U.S. Special Operations Command, my old command in Tampa, Supreme Allied Command Europe, SACEUR Atlantic Command, NATO, Central Command in Tampa, Florida, and Transportation Command for Airlift. So all of those agencies, besides the State Department's Operations Center, are listening and within an hour watching what is going on. We are seeing this on TV, if you will, and nobody is allowed to do anything. Orders are being issued by somebody, and obviously not Obama. Stand down. Stand down. Now, is that coming from Donilon, the National Security Advisor? Is that coming from Panetta? Is it coming from Dempsey? Is it a meeting of the minds? Who's in charge? Confusion reigns, I think. After the first attack, maybe they made the decision that, we don't need to do anything. That's not a good idea. You launch your forces. If you get there and nothing happens, fine, so be it. In this case, we just let it play out and we watch them die. And I say we, and the commander-in-chief is absent. He is not a commander-in-chief. I can't imagine George Bush or Ronald Reagan walking away from that situation. We know what happens when you respond. As far back as Gerald Ford and the Mayaguez, the taking of the ship, we launched forces immediately all the way to Thailand, and we actually reclaimed the ship. Now, in this case, we have a special mission facility. It's not a consulate. They call it a consulate sometimes, but even the State Department calls it something else. And whether it was there to run guns to the Syrian rebels, we don't know. But that's something that would come out if we had an investigation. And we really need a special prosecutor, much as happened in Watergate, although Benghazi Gate is a poor term because we lost 4 people and nobody died.
Colonel, one question that comes to mind here, and I think one of the ways that we have to leverage this into importance in the minds of the average U.S. citizen, with an all-volunteer force where we tell you that you volunteer to protect the United States of America, and the back half of that promise is we'll equip you with the best equipment, we'll do everything we can do to train you, and if we put you into harm's way, we're going to be there for you. With a volunteer force, when we have people, and none of those folks were active duty, but when we have people, former SEALs who are on the ground, they're risking their life by, using their laser to mark the target for our planes to hit, and that costs them their life. Isn't that sending a horrible message to every potential soldier, sailor, airman, Marine? Isn't that saying that the current command structure, starting with Dempsey and working its way down, isn't there to protect you, that when you're in the soup, they're not going to come through for you?
Absolutely. In fact, there's an expression, we have your back. And the way the Marine Corps works, the way our Special Operations Forces leave no man behind. We don't even leave our dead behind on the battlefield. That's been a dictum in the Marine Corps, the Army, and Special Operations in particular. We have your back. If you're in trouble, we'll come and get you. And we watched it like a bad TV show. The administration, from Dempsey and Panetta on down, and the president walked away. I just can't imagine a commander-in-chief would consider that preparation for a fundraising event. Now, you got to remember, this was before the election, and the news out, the storyline was the Arab Spring, that, oh, yes, we've done away with Al-Qaeda because Obama, killed Osama bin Laden. He did not. It was the United States Navy SEALs that took care of that. They would have done that for anybody. And if you read the book that came out, No Easy Day, as I have, the author says that. We would have done this for any president, for our country. We would take out bin Laden. Yes, we have your back. In this case, we ignored your back, and we let you die. And it wasn't the military. I think the military would have been there in a heartbeat. The time frame is important. This thing lasted from the first attack to the last casualty almost 8 hours. 8 hours. And our first military arrived by airlift the following day to pick up the bodies. In fact, the following evening on the 12th by airlift. There were no strike aircraft put in there, and I know there were strike aircraft in that vicinity. If not fighters, gunships. And I know the gunship. The AC-130 gunship can hit the corner of the room that I'm sitting in with one round from 10,000 feet. They are that accurate. And the fact that our SEAL was laser designating, Tyrone Woods was laser designating the mortar that was shooting at him and calling over the radio, and we must have recording somewhere of this, for the gunship to hit that target. And then, of course, it never did because it wasn't allowed to. Was it overhead? I don't know. We need an investigation. We need to look into logs and records and some to 400 military that were probably involved in this in some way, if not listening to what's going on. Someone will know who gave the stand order. That individual, whoever did that, stand down, do nothing, do not interfere. They need to be prosecuted, and that is treason, in my opinion.
So, Colonel Brauer, the one thing that we know for certain is that it's going to be a member of the U.S. military, and even though we don't like the phrase whistleblower, it's going to be a member of the military, one of those 300 people or more, probably an NCO, who was sitting there watching it, and it just turned his stomach to see us not have their backs. That's how we're going to get justice for these people. But in the meantime, we need to go to your website, we need to sign the petition, and we need to inform our friends on this. Colonel, it was a pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for your service to our country, and thank you for the great work you're doing as a retired aviator.
Thank you very much, Terry, and God bless you, and good luck with what you're doing as well.